Hello. Hello and welcome. My name is Kathy Mazak. I'm so glad you're here on our Securing Professional Development Funding webinar. So I can see, a few people have joined, and I'm sorry I was 1 minute late after I wrote that email that said we were going to be prompt. 1 minute is still pretty prompt. But I want to first let you know that we are here on Zoom. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, there is if you're on a laptop or a desktop, at the bottom, there is a little speech bubble that says chat. So that is where you can tell me right now where you're joining from. Hello. So let me know where you're joining from. And if when you, hi Nagme, I'm so glad to see you here. Yay. When you put when you put your information into Zoom, if it doesn't say a name that looks like a name to me, then I'm not going to say your name, but you can write it in your comment. Hello, Anna in Ireland. Hi, Ronnie joining from London. Oh, this is great. Oh, great. I'm so glad, Nagme. So hopefully what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you the method that I recommend people using. Hi, Nilsa. Elizabeth Manley. Hello, Beth. How are you? I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to give you the kind of the step-by-step way that I recommend people ask for professional development funding. And then we're going to walk through, I'm going to also give you, and I think I linked it up in the emails that went out already, a template letter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you kind of my method for getting professional development funding. Then I'm going to walk you through my one of my programs so that and I'm going to explain using my program as an example, how would you ask for professional development funding for this program? And then I'm going to show you my template letter, and we're going to talk about how you would tweak it and adjust it based on everything that I've said. So hopefully we'll be done in 45 minutes or so, if not an hour. I'm happy. Well, if we're done in 45 minutes, I'm happy to take questions. I mean, happy to take questions anyway. So, so great. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you. I'm a little concerned that we only have 9 people, although they're 9 awesome people here. And we had 300 people register. So hopefully everybody got the link and everything's fine. All right, so to start out, just a little bit, I don't have any slides, I'm just gonna be talking to you, so get ready. Just a few things kind of to start out. One of the reasons that we need professional development funding, if you haven't noticed, is that the training that we have that we get in our PhD programs is not necessarily the best preparation for the job that we actually have. So just really quickly to answer Ronnie's question, yeah, absolutely. You will get the recording. Everybody's going to get the recording. Don't worry. So yeah, we don't really get prepared to do the day-to-day work of being a professor, right? So we get prepared to do research studies of a certain kind. We often write a traditional dissertation, which is something that we will never write again. And so the actual day-to-day life of being a professor is naturally multitasking, right? And you're multi-pulled, right? And a lot of people describe this as feeling pulled in 1,000 directions. They can never get on top of their to-do list. They don't have time to write because they can't get through their urgent tasks to get to their important tasks, that teaching balloons and service balloons to take up time that prevents them from getting their writing done. And that is where, if you're having any of those kind of problems, that is where professional development definitely comes in. So I'm going to talk about 3 steps, right? Step 1, are you ready? Okay, step 1 is to identify all possible sources of funding. So something that a lot of people say, and maybe there are people who have signed up for this webinar or didn't sign up for this webinar because you're well, my university, it says all the time that they're too poor. Like they're always talking about budget cuts. They're always talking about how they don't have money for things. And a lot of us are living under, our university is living under austerity measures right now. And it sounds gloom and doom all the time. And a lot of times we think that that means there isn't money for professional development funding. But based on the experiences that I have had with women who have taken my programs, there is always funding somewhere. So just like you, in your personal life, you make choices about where you spend money, right? Like you have your rent or your mortgage that you absolutely must cover every month, and certain bills that you have to cover. And then you have some discretionary income. And sometimes you use that to go out to dinner or go see a show, or sometimes you save it up and use it for a vacation or whatever. So it's the same way with the university. They have certain things that they need to pay, and then there's a lot of discretionary income. And so you need to figure out on your campus where those pots of money are and who controls them. So I'm going to give you some places to look. So what you should do for this step one, which is identify all possible sources, is really to actually identify the sources. Like you need to go and think about what I'm telling you right now, get out a piece of paper as we're talking now, and start jotting down what are possible sources on your campus for this funding. All right, I'm going to give you examples of places to look. Okay, so first of all, your own startup funds or professional development funds. So not everybody has access to a little pot of their own money, but often when you negotiate for your position, you can get a little bit of funding for professional development or for startup. Or sometimes you can get a lot, right? The people get startup funds that are for setting up labs and all of that kind of stuff, right? So if you have your own startup funds, and even if you got them for what the university said was a particular purpose, like, so even if you got them for, setting up a lab, often, like every time that somebody has asked to use their startup funds for one of my programs, they have gotten a yes. So usually, it depends on your university, but usually it's at your discretion to use some of that funding instead of for a new computer for professional development. So if you have your own professional development funds or your own startup funds, that's a place that you can start. But I don't want you to use all of your startup funds on one of my programs, for example. Well, I would love you to, sure, but you want to use those startup funds for other things. So here's the other places that you're going to be looking. So again, this is identifying all possible sources of funding. You want to look at your department chair and dean. Okay, so a good reason to have a relationship with your department chair and your dean, like your dean should know who you are and what you do, is that when it comes to wanting to participate in a professional development program, you should already have kind of like a relationship with them so that they know the kind of professor you are and the kind of work that you do. And hopefully, it's not always the case, but hopefully you will have a positive relationship. And so going and asking for funding is a possibility. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you're going to ask later, but definitely your department chair and dean, okay? Department chairs, again, they might say they don't have any money. The point is you need to ask, and the same with the dean. It might seem like we're so poor all the time. You have to ask anyway, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about why as we go here. Okay, so your own startup or professional development funds, your department chair and dean. Number 3 is your professional development office or faculty support office on your campus. Okay, so again, not all campuses have a professional development office or a faculty support office, but yours might. You also might have like an office of, or like an office that helps support your teaching. that's another place to look. And when I go through my program, I'm going to be making connections and showing you like why, you know, how you can connect even a program that's about writing to professional development program about writing to making your teaching better. I'm going to talk about that as well. All right, and then the last one, the last place to look is your faculty or equity diversity office. So this is a more and more popular on college campuses, especially in the States, is to have a faculty diversity officer or a faculty equity officer. And if this person is on your campus, then you can directly ask him or her for professional development funding as a way to address equity and retention. Okay, so we know, and I can actually link up. Let me see if I, you know, if you do a quick search for like wage disparity in higher ed, you will find very quickly that women make 81.6 cents on the dollar compared to men. And also that women of color are like grossly underrepresented, especially as you go up through the ranks. So wage disparity increases as you go up through the ranks, and also underrepresentation of women of color increases as you go up through the ranks. And so one way to balance or combat, you know, that very real statistic is to get more support and funding. Support means funding, right? For faculty, and especially faculty who are women of color. And so your faculty diversity or equity office is a great place to look for professional development funding, because their whole job is equity. And one way to get equity is to give support to professors who are more likely to burn out, more likely to be underrepresented. Okay, so that was 4 places to look for in terms of places to ask. We're going to get to the how to ask in a minute. The 4 places were your own startup or professional development funds, your department chair and dean, your professional development office or faculty support office on your campus, including your office of teaching, you know, if you have a teaching support office, and your faculty or equity diversity office. Let me know in the chat if there's another office on your campus with another name that you think would be another place that you might look that I haven't thought of, okay? So go ahead and let us know there. Okay. Step 2 is connect to the strategic plan. Every university has a strategic plan. And in the strategic plan is where they lay out what they want the university to do. And it's often a very future-looking type of document. We had one at one point that was called, I work at University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez, so it was called 10 por la década. So it was like 10 for the next 10 years, and it was 10 like areas of focus and improvement that the university was going to be developing in the next 10 years. Whatever it's called, you have one. And here's why you have one, and here's why you need to get your hands on it. If you're doing this kind of asking, which I'm going to explain in a minute, but also if you're doing any kind of grant writing, you need to be really familiar with your university strategic plan, because you have to show how your grant proposal meets the funding agency's requirements, but also your own university's, it will support your own university's strategic plan. So you need to think about your ask for professional development funding exactly the same way as you approach your grant writing. You need to make an argument. It needs to be connected to the strategic plan. You have to think about your audience. So that's what we're going to get into right now. So you need to get a hold of your strategic plan, and you need to find the place where it says increasing faculty retention, especially for people of color and women. Okay, it says that somewhere, I'm gonna guarantee. So you're gonna go find that spot because that's the place that you're really gonna use in your ask, okay? So additionally, in your strategic plan, especially if you're like an aspirational, we call them like aspirational universities, so universities that are like an R3, they wanna be an R2, or they're an R2 and they wanna be an R1. I'm talking in the terminology of the US system, but basically like if you're a teaching focused university, but you're trying to turn more research focused, the strategic plan will say something about that. So, you know, again, in the chat, let me know if you're at one of those places, because a great way to tap into your strategic plan is to say like, okay, well, if we're going to go from being a teaching university to a research university, I need this kind of training. So yeah, Nilsa says, talk with the chair or the dean to inquire if the development or advancing office can fund your research or professional development. Yep, be daring. Yes, absolutely. And I would say like it is daring, it feels daring, but I would say it's what you deserve. So like if we are operating within, and I can pull up the statistics in a second, but we are operating within this situation where women make, you know, 81% of what men make in academia. So there's an inequity. And the other thing about that statistic is that it hasn't really shifted in the last 10 years. So even though we've seen Me Too and we've seen so much different kinds of like advancements for women and more women getting PhDs, we have not seen the wage gap close. And when you look at research universities, you have like, it's almost, you get like 50-50, almost 50-50 in like a community college and BA granting institutions. But once you move to PhD granting institutions, there's a great disparity in terms of women represented at the higher ranks. So all of this information, which I will in a second take a minute and just pull those the link to those stats for you, so you can use them in your argument. But like, it's not daring to say like, look, this is the reality, and that's why you need to be funding me. You need to put extra funding into me, because I am operating within an unequal system, right? An unequitable system. And the way to make it equitable is to give me support. Okay, Ronnie says, it might help to find out how many women are full professors in your institution to show the disparity with the institution and perhaps your discipline. Yeah, let me just take a sec, and I'm gonna just pull real quick those numbers, because I just realized how I can do it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you these numbers and share my screen. And then I'll find the links and I will email them. When I email the replay, I will email the links. Okay, so this is, sorry. So these are the stats, and these stats come from the 2018 through 2019 academic year salaries survey by the American Association of University Professors. So that is a survey that you can find online, and I will provide you with the link in a second. That if you're at a US university and they answer that survey, which many, many, many of them do, you will find your university, and you can actually see the salary differences and the percentage of faculty differences, female faculty differences. So this is the stat, that's where that stat comes from. Also, we have the total number of women in faculty positions grew by 24% in 10 years, but we are, we still have this big wage gap. There's a bunch of reasons for this, and here's another link. Well, let me copy this. This is another link that I can put in the chat. Hold on a sec. Where you can get stats. I could open the chat. Where you can get stats. There we go. there's that catalyst.org article that's just like a bunch of stats. And that's where you can see the percentage of women of color are underrepresented in academia. And as you go up the ranks, you get more and more disparity. And some of the reasons for the disparity are that women are in lower paying fields, more women are contingent faculty, but especially when you look at this survey, like here you go. This is the wage disparity difference, but there's also percentage of women making these different ranks for different types of universities. There's a great table. Go to this survey. It's survey table D. It's very useful for your argument. And you'll see how, that general 81 point, whatever it is, 81 cents on the dollar number comes from looking at all ranks combined. Okay, so including contingent faculty and everything. When we look at these particular ranks, we have basically 93 cents on the dollar, but then look at the full professor, 87 cents on the dollar. So as you go up, and this represents a 20K difference, you know, it's huge. So we need women making it all the way to full, and these are some numbers that you could use. Again, search for this AAUP 2018-2019 survey. It's great, and it showed the all of the tables are super useful, and all of the the appendices are super useful as well. All right, so just things to think about as we go here. Ways to make your argument. So if you come at this, if you come at your argument with this equity argument, it's very strong, right? You can show that there's inequity. You can say, well, one way you can't pay me more per year because of whatever rules you have at your university, or I have to go get an offer from someplace else, and then that's how I get a raise. One way that you can make up for this salary difference is to fund my professional development. So that's another way to look at it. So step 2 in getting professional development funding is to connect to the strategic plan, okay? And you wanna find those places in the strategic plan where it talks about, you know, bettering the equity differences on campus, retaining. You definitely look for retention, because professional development funding is a great way, professional development is a great way to retain faculty members. So I would just say, add to that, like, you cost a lot of money to get. So they want to keep you. Like, it's not like they, you know, it's not like you're a dime a dozen. All right. It costs them a lot of money to hire you. And so they want to retain you. So you need to make the argument that you need the kind of support that's going to retain you. All right, so number 2 is connect to the strategic plan. And number 3 is ask and keep asking. Okay, so again, like, you know, Nilsa said, it might feel, you know, be daring, right? It might feel daring, and you're gonna have to do it. But the more you do it, the less daring it feels. Then it just starts to feel normal, okay? And Ronnie says it might help to find out how many women are full professors, right? So, so again, digging into those stats. So you need to ask and keep asking. And here's my advice for asking. And then I'll show you, like, I'll apply some of this stuff to one of my programs, and I'll show you the funding letter. So here's how you can ask. Again, like, many universities are crying poor all the time, right? They're like, we don't have any money for anything, but there's always money for stuff. So you have to ask, and nobody's going to find money for you unless you ask. So you have to be the squeaky wheel, and you have to really advocate for yourself. And here's one way to do it. So you've come up with a list of all the places on your campus to find professional development funds, right? So I gave you your own, so I gave you 4, right? Your own startup funds, your department chair and dean, your your professional development office on campus if you have one, including your teaching office, and your equity or faculty diversity office. So those are 4 places. Look for other ones as well on your campus. Make a list, okay? Once you have that list, I would start, oh, is anybody having a problem with audio? Let me know. I would start with, your department chair. So you go to your department chair with the letter that I'm going to show you, and you say like, okay, then you go to the department chair and you say, hey, you know, I found a program. This is how much it costs. I want to participate in this program. And so the department chair says, oh, I would love to help you, and you should definitely do that program, but we just don't have any money. Then what you say is, okay, great. Would you please write me a letter that says, you know, Kathy Mazak should be funded for this program. I think that she should be supported. And you attach that letter when you go up to the dean. And so you don't just go to the dean first. You need to read your situation, right? But if you think that the department chair is going to support you, then you need to get that in writing. You need to get an actual letter, and you can even draft that letter. Like, you can draft that letter for that person and just say like, oh, could you sign this letter then? You know, like, and then that letter goes up to the dean when you ask. And the same with the dean. If the dean, you know, says, oh, you know, we just really don't have any funding, you say, okay, if, you know, or especially if he or she says like, we would love to fund this kind of thing, we just don't have the money, then you ask for a letter that says that, and then you go to the provost, like, and you just keep going up. The department chair letter can also help you, and the dean letter can totally also help you in the faculty diversity office or other offices on campus, right? So think about like, you know, how you can get an actual letter of support for from people on your campus that you can then take to the next level. All right. Latoya, I can see that you're on here. Can you just like check our email, because I'm a little surprised we only have 14 people and we had like 300 people register. So I don't know if people had trouble getting in or what happened. Anyway, okay, email's working, fine. Okay, okay, cool. So next thing, I'm going to show you one of my programs, and then we're gonna talk about the letter and how you can connect and you know, create this letter that connects to the strategic plan and the program that you want to participate in. All right, so I have a program called Amplify Faculty Writing Accelerator, and that program is for pre-tenure women on the tenure track. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little about the program, and then we're going to talk about how you make this argument, how you could make an argument based on what the program's about. Okay, so this program is specifically for pre-tenure women on the tenure track who feel like they are overwhelmed and overworked and starting to feel like they are not sure how they're going to get all their publications done before tenure, and they want to go up for tenure with confidence and not frazzled and burning out. Latoya, yes, go right ahead and share it. Thank you. Okay, so there's 3 main areas in the program. The program's called Amplify because we are wanting to expand your voice, but also because we connect to I'm connecting to the Spanish word amplio. I live in Puerto Rico, my family's bilingual, so it reminds me of this word that means like comfortable and spacious. That's what we want pre-tenure to feel like, instead of feeling like you're on a treadmill that is set 3 clicks too fast. So in order to feel confident going up for tenure, you need to work in these 3 areas: clarify, demystify, and multiply. So when you clarify your purpose and get very, very clear on your academic brand and your mission, And you demystify the processes of writing and saving time and managing your everyday academic life. You save time. When you are clear on your mission and what your purpose is, and you learn tools and strategies and techniques to multiply out your effect in the world, you will publish more. And when you learn to demystify the processes and the behind the scenes of academic writing, especially, and you can multiply out your effectiveness through mentoring, better mentoring, and other things, then you will change academic culture, which is the real reason that this program exists, is to make a change one woman at a time, so that tenure doesn't lead to burnout. So in the clarify part, there's 3 main areas that we work on. We map your mission. So we create an academic mission statement, and we create a plan for what your milestones in your academic career are going to what you want them to be. Because what we want to do is disconnect from the prescribed milestones in academia, the PhD, the tenure track job, tenure, and then maybe full if you can get there. We want to disconnect from that, and we want to drive what the milestones are. So that's what we do in the map your mission part. We align your activities. So we do a big purge of activities. We have a brain dump of activities, and we purge things that aren't in line with our milestone map and our mission statement. And we strategize our pipelines. Okay, so all of this work that we do, if in your strategic plan, it says that, you know, they want to retain female faculty, let's say, that's something we see in strategic plans a lot. This work helps you to do that, because it helps you to say no. It helps you to really get focused in a way that you can be known for what you do, instead of this like really diluted, you know, I do everything kind of thing. So what you would need to do if you're writing a letter and you're trying to, you know, express how this program would help meet the strategic plan objective of retention, you would need to hook to, you know, these ideas of learning to say no and prioritizing, and having a pipeline strategy that is going to get your, that is going to be sustainable. The other thing is, if your strategic plan says, you know, it talks about fomenting research and innovation, then all the pipeline stuff can connect to that. All right. Then the second part of the framework here is demystify, and that's where we teach you all these behind the scenes things that nobody teaches you, right? So one is create writing systems. The other is how to manage your pipeline, which is different than strategizing your pipeline, and then implementing systems across, not just writing systems, but systems across your academic work. And so again, like, these are time-saving things. And you can make an argument for how learning these time-saving things is going to make you more productive, but especially any kind of learning to systematize and pipeline manage is going to make you more productive in your research output. So search through that strategic plan and see where you can hook into something about productivity and research output. You also can always link writing to retention, because unless you meet the publication requirements for tenure, you won't be retained. So that's another way to kind of link to the strategic plan. And then finally, in the multiply part, what we talk about is your mindset around academia and kind of rewriting some of the stories we've been telling ourselves that don't serve us about what it means to be an academic. We talk about creating community, and this program includes a really big community component. And then the last is mentoring for change. Ooh, okay. The last is mentoring for change. There's a little feedback, Latoya. Okay. Mentoring for change, which is like, we often end up, women especially, kind of overburdened in terms of, there we go. Overburdened in terms of the load of mentoring. And so we actually talk about that in the course and say like, okay, well, how can we mentor in a way that doesn't overburden us, but that still creates this change in academic culture that we want. Okay, so any professional development program is going to clearly say what they are, I hope, it's going to clearly say what they are about, right? And these are the places where you're going to connect to the strategic plan, all right? And really play up the equity aspect of it, especially if you can show with numbers that there is inequity at your university. One way, again, to balance that inequity is to fund women's professional development. Okay, that's that. Okay, so let me show you so this is actually what the Amplify program includes. And again, you can look at the specific program aspects and connect it to priorities on your campus. So the Amplify program includes 9 workshops on that framework. So there's a workshop for each spoke of the framework. They're pre-recorded. So another thing, again, like in your letter, you're going to want to say like, how do you have the time to do this professional development and how it's going to actually save you time. The workshops are pre-recorded, so you can see them, you can consume them, whenever you want. And then there's all of these ways that we give you support. We have a twice monthly mastermind call, which is a group call. It's a really unique to academia way of doing group coaching, where we have hot seats and we develop really deep, meaningful peer mentoring. So again, connecting to your university's priorities, you want to think about like, well, does my university talk about networking, right? Or professional connections? This program is a way to deepen professional connections with women in diverse women in diverse universities around the world, really. So think about like, how can you talk about that? There's weekly co-writing sessions. And so it really has this accountability aspect of like, if you need to get your butt in the chair to get the writing done, and it gives you a way to do that with other people that will hold you accountable. We have twice monthly office hours where you have like professional writing coaches at your disposal. So again, connecting to research output, daily support in a non-Facebook community. You have basically, on-call access to writing and professional development and productivity advice. So this is going to be a way to really support you to meet your own goals, but also remember that you're not trying to argue about how the program is going to help you meet your goals. You're trying to argue how the program is going to help the university meet their goals. Okay, so be really clear about who your audience is. We have 3 one-on-one coaching sessions. This is a year-long program. So that's why it has all this stuff in it. It's a year of support. We have 3 one-on-one coaching calls, and we have access to a library of recorded workshops and programs. And then we also have 2 live events. One is a shorter live event and one is a writing retreat. So there's a 2.5-day event, which is like a behind the scenes of academic editing and publishing. And you also get to bring work and actually workshop pieces of writing. And then we have a week-long writing retreat where you really get this kind of cloistered away time to get writing done. So what you could do is look at the professional development program that you're considering and then kind of almost make a chart, right? So have the aspects of the professional development program and then where they connect to your strategic plan. All right, let's look at the, and so like, again, like we're looking for one way. I really see professional development as a way to, when people talk a big talk about equity, and then they're like, oh, but we can't raise your salary because of whatever reasons they have about that. One way to kind of get more salary is to have them fund professional development for you. And so this would equal out that discrepancy in salary, right? you don't necessarily have to say that. I don't know that that's an argument that will go over. You have to see, like, judge your audience about how you would couch that. But for you and your own feelings of like, of getting over this idea of that asking is being annoying, or asking is being, you know, I'm asking for more than I'm worth. No, you're not. you are, you know, creating a more equal playing field. All right. And so the program is $10,000 for the year. It has all these things, including the 2 live events and all the training and support and the monthly meetings and all the stuff. If you want to do the program, but you don't want to come on the July writing retreat, then the cost of enrollment is $6,000. So then I'm going to show you the funding request letter. So this letter, I will send again in the replay, the link to it. But basically, I'm just going to walk you through the different paragraphs so that you can see how to structure this for yourself. And then I'm happy to take questions. All right. So, dear decision maker, and again, like, you're going to want to write this letter and then keep moving it up the chain, right? I'm writing to request funding to participate in a professional development experience that is in support of our university's strategic plan. As you know, writing and publishing are essential activities for professors at your university. In addition, the strategic plan emphasizes, and then you want to literally quote the strategic plan. You want to make it so obvious that this program meets these strategic plan objectives that they are like, you know, they can't say no, right? For this reason, participating in professional development experiences that are known to increase writing and publication output are important for faculty such as myself. And then you should say, like, you know, a junior faculty or women faculty or women of color or first generation college students or whatever you want to put in there about yourself, right? Okay. And then a little about the program. The Amplify Faculty Writing Accelerator is a program that helps academic women such as myself write and publish more. Based on my experiences with program creator Kathy Mazak's writing development techniques for faculty, I know that I would benefit from this intensive professional development experience. My aim is to use this program to, and then an outcome that's specified in your strategic plan. Okay, so think if the program, if they say something about increasing research output, even if they say something like, you know, if you are a teaching focused university, but you want to take this writing course, right, this writing program, you need to make that connection. Like, find the way that getting time to write is going to improve your teaching, you know, and so this could be expanded out, right? My aim is to use this program to, you know, perform excellent teaching. Sorry, I had a verb moment there. Like, or, you know, to create excellence in my teaching by doing blah, 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 you know, because you're going to have time. We know that teacher researchers are, you know, if teaching doesn't feel extra, then you're going to be better at it, right? Think about how you want to articulate that to your audience. Writing and time management skills that I will learn will help me achieve my publication goals much faster than if I were to do it alone. And then think about, again, go back to your list of, here's what the program is, here's what here's how it hooks to different parts of the strategic plan, and make those connections here. So you might end up with a couple of paragraphs in here, right? All right, and then the tuition for it is this. Would you be willing to support my participation as part of your commitment to quote the darn strategic plan, the value that they are saying, you know, as part of your commitment to increasing faculty diversity and retention. Previous participants have learned skills that I've been able to share with colleagues and students, and I'm hoping to do the same. Be a little careful about what you promise, okay? So I don't think that you have to promise that you're gonna go back to your campus and give, you know, 10 workshops. I really do not think you have to do that. You are allowed to ask for this professional development funding and have it just make you better. Like, and you don't have to spread that out. But if you know that your university would appreciate it, you can also say something about that, but don't promise the moon and the stars, because I don't want you to make extra work for yourself. If there is a registration deadline, so my Amplify program is on rolling admissions. We launch cohorts because we work in small cohorts, so of 5 to 8 women, and we launch one a month, or we start one per month. So you would want to put in here like the registration deadline. If I register by, like, for example, for my program, if I register by October 31st, then the price is $6,000. If I register after that, the price goes up to $7,000. I have some other bonuses as well for like quick action and registering immediately. And so you want to mention those, like, if I register by this time, I get this thing that is, we'll get more for our investment, right? And then, assign it with your name. So I would love to hear what you think, and any questions that you have about professional development funding or the Amplify program. Oh, and by the way, let me drop some links in the chat. One of them is, here's the link to the template letter, which is also in your email, but just in case. And then if you are interested in the Amplify program, if you fit into the demographic for Amplify, which is pre-tenure women on the tenure track, then the application, it is an application only program. We don't just take anybody. You have to go through an application process. And because we are really curating this experience, where we are going to create like these wonderful little peer mentoring groups. And so we want to make sure that, we are only offering the program to people who we know we can get results for, and who kind of, are going to contribute to those peer mentoring groups in a way that we know works well for the program. So if you are in that pre-tenure category, you're on the tenure track, but pre-tenure, then go ahead and please apply for the Amplify program. And the application is there. It's a super short application. It's just about 8 questions. And then at the end of the application, it asks you to schedule a 10-minute call with one of our team members to just, talk about your application and see if you're a good fit for the program. All right. Oh, look, there's a Q. This is my first time using Zoom webinar. So Elizabeth, Beth has a question. How do you respond if they say you already have research funds? Like, use those? Yeah, that's a great question. So I want to click that. You would like to answer this question live. Look at that. All right. Sorry, I just upgraded to Zoom webinars. This is my first time using it. So Beth, if they say you already have research funds, you can say, I don't want to use them all for this. Would you consider partially funding? Would you match, like if you're, whatever you have in research funds, think about how much you would be willing to put out, and then how much you would like to ask them to match. That would be one way to go about it. Similarly, if you, I think that, obviously, because I offer professional development programs for a living, I think that professional development is like one of the best investments that you can make in yourself. So people take Amplify on their own dime. Like, it's like that, definitely, like, people fund themselves to take the program, and really take advantage of it. And it's fantastic. People also get partial funding. So I would say, like, go for the full amount of funding. If they come back, Beth, and say like, oh, but you already have this, we already gave you this money. Then you come back and you say, okay, I am using this money to do this other thing. I'm wondering, would you be willing, like, I could use $1,000 of my money. Could you fund the rest? So think about like ways that you could, get another thing too would be, and this happens to people a lot as well, they go to their department and the department says, I can only give you $500. And you go, great, I'll take your $500. Now I'm going to move up to the dean level and I'm going to see if I can get $3,500 from the dean. And then I'm going to go over here and, you know, you can do that as well. It's more legwork, but you know, I just think that these programs, you know, really pay off. Like they pay off literally in, increasing your salary by letting you move up the ranks, right? Or they pay off literally in you can write more so you can get more grants, so that you get, you know, summer salary, or you get indirect cost kickback. At a lot of universities, they give you a percentage of your indirect costs. So just think about, you know, how much would you willing to fund yourself, and then have them match it, or have them, oh, it's a $5,000 program, I can put out 1,000 and you can put out 4, or, you know, like whatever. But yeah, I would say, like, if people are telling you, sit down, we already funded you, you need to get a little squeaky about that, because you're productive. Like, because you're one of the people who is, like, Beth, I know that you're one of the people trying to foster more writing on your campus and doing things and projects that are benefiting the whole campus. So that when they invest in you, they are investing in the whole campus, because you are doing things that are beneficial for the whole campus. And I think we should all be thinking about, okay, well, what are we doing? Like, what are the things that we're doing that we're not getting compensated for, but that are greater good kinds of projects, right? And how can we go to our universities and say, like, hey, I know that you're not funding, you're like, I'm doing all of this stuff that's above and beyond. And one way to compensate me would be to, you know, fund my participation in this thing. So let me know what you think. And other questions? Any other questions? Thank you all for being here. Other questions that you can just drop them in the chat, or thoughts. Also, like, we have about 5 minutes, but if anybody's like, oh, that was fantastic. Oh, great. I'm so glad, Beth. Yay. If everybody's like, that Kathy Masick, she's full of crap, like, this will never work, hit me up, because I'm going to, so that I can help you work through whatever it is that's holding you back. Because I do feel like another thing, again, like as Nilsa said, right? Like, you need to be brave. Like, you do need to be brave, and you need to, like, work through whatever you need to work through mentally to understand that you're deserving. Like, that this kind of support is what you deserve, so that you can go and do the important work that you're trying to do, you know, and lift up the world. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Okay, thank you, Nilsa, for that. So yes, okay. No, don't be sorry for questions. That's why we're here. Other questions or thoughts. But yeah, I would just say, like, here's my pep talk for you. You are worthy of all the professional development money. You are worthy of a $10,000 professional development program where you have a whole week to, you know, shut off everything else and really focus on your writing. You are also, another thing that sometimes gets people gunked up in the head is, like, thinking like you're supposed to know how to do this. Like, thinking, and I will say, sometimes administrators give you that vibe too. Like, well, don't you know? What do you mean? Like, it's hard to write. Like, I have a friend who's in the biology department. He's a friend of my husband. His friend is male. And he's like, when my husband, Guillermo, said to him, like, what I've been doing lately, right? Like, I'm doing this writing coaching and all of this stuff. And these professional development programs, he's like, why do people need to find time to write? Why can't people find time to write? Like, I was like, oh my God, I wanted to roll my eyes so much. Because, like, yeah, for some people who has a full-time person at home supporting him, that, you know, maybe there's lots of time to write because he could go in the office all Saturday and write if he wanted to. But for us, everybody else, we're like worked to the bone, and we can't even get to the thing that is probably the most important thing that we do, right? Which is writing and publishing. Although we also want to be excellent teachers, and I never want to like, you know, talk down about teaching. That's not what I mean. But, you know, like if we're going to keep our jobs, get a new job, move, we need to write and publish. We're going to get the grants, we need to write and publish. Not just get the grants, we need to write off the grants too. So sorry, I got on my soapbox for a second. But, but anyway, thank you all so much for coming. I'm so glad that you're in. Pretty much people stayed to the end, which is fantastic. I will be sending the recording of this in a follow-up email along with the template, and I'm going to send links to those. Oh, did I get your second question? No, I'm going to grab it right now. Oh, and Krista has a question too. Hi, Krista. Elizabeth says, how do you respond if they say, we don't have a retention problem or we don't have a wage gap? I would really doubt that they don't have a wage gap. But that's a good question, Beth. You need to dig in and find out. You might, in this survey that I'm going to send in the follow-up email, that AA, American Association of University Professors, you should be able to see your institution and see if there's a wage gap. But also think again about this, like how you're contributing to the greater good at your university versus what average professor at your university is doing, right? Like, because we all have been, like, Beth and I are at, I feel like there's a lot of similarities in when we talk about our universities, they're a lot the same, but there's a lot of people who are coasting, right? You are not coasting. So again, like you should actually be paid more than the people who are coasting. So that's what I would, you know, try to think about that as a possible way to make the argument against that, you know, we don't have a wage gap. Oh, we have a labor gap. I'm doing more labor than the other people. Okay, and Krista says, hi, Krista. What are some key phrases to include in your ask letters? Yeah, I would just, Krista, you know how to identify an audience. So think about things like key phrases, like you want to always like turn their own words back to them. That's why I say like quoting the strategic plan. So like if there's a common thing that your university says, or maybe the slogan of the university or any of these kind of things, you want to take their own words and turn them back to them and say like, you say this, well, here's what you need to do in order to act on that. And that's why I keep, you know, referring to the strategic plan, because it actually should be mostly their words turned back on them. I really, that's how you make an argument that they can't refuse, right? Is that you just go like, oh, you said this, you know, but again, like couching it in like, I want to do all of these things that I'm directly quoting from the strategic plan in your words. And so again, like any phrases that are like common on your campus or that your dean talks about all the time. So yes. Okay, there's another question. What would you think about online retreats for independent researchers? Yeah, so I actually, I do online retreats, but not outside of the Amplify program. So in the Amplify program, we do a 3 times a year online, I call it the virtual writers retreat. It's an online sprint, but the only way to do it is inside of Amplify. So soon, and this is for Beth, if you're still here, soon I'm gonna be, I don't know when soon is gonna be though, but I'm, in the back of my head, I have like an Amplify for full-time faculty, for going for full, or people post tenure. Okay, so people who are post tenure, I'm thinking about an Amplify for them. So but I'm not doing it yet. It probably I wouldn't launch that before January. So yeah, but that would be the same thing, but instead of the, I mean, I'm not sure exactly if the framework would change or not, because I feel like when we're post tenure, the problems are like, are different, right? They're like, how do I form, you know, how do I, what do I do now that I have tenure is one problem that I hear people asking, but also like for people who do want to go to full, how do I make an international impact, or how do I kind of make this broader footprint with my work? You know, I'm not, so anyway, there will be someday soon a post tenure program that will have all the same things that Amplify has done. It'll be called Amplify : something else. That will be for post tenure. But yes. So anyway, we've been an hour. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad you came, and I will be sending the replay. And so look out for that in your email. I'll link up to those stats and that place where you can get the survey. Go find your strategic plan, know it intimately, and go get that money. Okay, bye.